Alright everyone, so I made it out for my Saturday evening and my Sunday morning hunt. Had a really good time. I screwed myself out of one opportunity of a deer, passed on another shot opportunity, and kind of just got busted in the third opportunity that went on this weekend. But had a really good time, a lot of interaction with deer. So let's jump right into that. Let me show you what happened Saturday evening for me. I have some nice footage of a buck came in with his doe and he was tending to her in a grunt. It was really neat. And then I'll show you how I screwed myself out of it. Alright, so the buck is going to work his way in right here at the top, right in this area, and he's going to kind of hang out under this Palaka holly for a little bit. I definitely got to, pinch my pennies and save up some money to get a newer camcorder, something hopefully high def or 4K even, just because some clearer footage for this would be very useful. But anyway, in a little bit, the doe is going to make her way in from over on this left-hand side, just right where that down tree is, and she's going to cross that. Right as she gets to that tree, if you start listening, you're going to start hearing him give her some tending grunts. So we'll just wait for her to kind of move in as she comes in now. And just listen real close. Turn up your volume if you have to. So she blows out there and runs off to the right, but the buck only moves about, 2 hops and comes to a dead stop right in front of that down tree there. Now, I really didn't make any movement, and from this vantage point from my action camera, you're going to see the same thing. I'm just kind of touching the hat to the top, trying to get some flies off me, and then she runs off. What I think actually happened is, so from right here, the doe right now, this is a still image, is behind those trees. So she's not in view of definitely the camera. And if you go 18 inches over to the left, she's even more behind the trees from seeing me as well. And, once again, no really big movement. But if you look in the lower left-hand corner here, you're going to see one of my turkey decoys sticking up there on the bottom. And behind that pine tree is one, my gobbler decoy. It's a little bit bigger. And what I think happened is they're cheap decoys. They're not the best looking, and they're very plastic and shiny. And the gobbler's got a lot of blue on his head and neck, which is a really easy color for deer to see. And she's in direct visual line of that. And I think she saw it, and it just spooked her a little bit and got uneasy, so she blew and bounded out just about, 20, 30 yards from there. All right, so the buck is just standing there and minutes are going by. But meanwhile, while I'm trying to stay motionless, I am getting attacked by the deer flies. It's like they were trying to protect the deer. You can see right in this close-up, one is chewing on my face. And I'm trying not to move my right hand off the camera because it's still there from where the deer blew. But then they come in, start landing on my glasses and on my nose. And I had to just sneak my right hand up just to shoo them away. But still, just incessant, and they just pissed the hell out of me. And I actually was doing a lot of movement. And fortunately, that buck, his head was behind some brush, so he really didn't have a good view of me. But after another 4 or 5 minutes, eventually the doe started working her way back over to the buck. And you're going to see her come in kind of off to this right-hand side and start crossing, heading left to where the buck is. She makes her way over under the Palaka holly, kind of where the buck was hanging out, and she just hangs out there behind him. And once again, another 5-6 minutes go by, and the buck is just staying motionless. Now, that's something. You spook a deer, you may think they ran off or moved, but they will stay still for the longest time because their best way of seeing something is for them to be motionless and pick up movement. If they're moving, it's a lot harder for them to notice everything. But once again, that doe, I think, got a sight of those decoys and decides that she's going to blow out, this time going off about 40 or 50 yards, kind of back off to the right there if you saw her hop. Now, the buck, still just looking, he's not in view of the decoys, so I don't think he knows what she's all concerned about. But eventually, I think he just decides to, follow in her footsteps. He's definitely got one thing on his mind. And slowly, he eventually turns to his right and starts to head towards her. I had a hope and went ahead and turned the camera that maybe, just maybe, he'd start working his way and come inside, that 30 yards area that he's just beyond. Maybe he'd move in closer and just kind of quarter in towards me as he went. But unfortunately, no real luck with that. He just stayed on that one track heading out there at about 35, 40 yards. All right, before I get into how Sunday morning went for me, I want to talk about a new gadget I got. So I put new tires on the truck this summer and it came with a $100 rebate. Rebate equals hunting gear, just so you all know. And what I picked up, as I've mentioned a few times, I get busted a lot by deer coming up behind me. How I set up in the middle of these ambush points, the activity of the deer are coming and going in multiple directions, including just passing by me. So it happens a lot to me where I get a deer coming up from behind. You barely hear them until they're on top of you, and sometimes they bust any little movement you have before you know they're there. Now, Spy Point, which they really should sponsor me as much as I, love their equipment and talk about it, but they have a motion detector unit and receiver that you can set up kind of just for these situations of letting you know that deer are coming, moving in a distance off behind you and are coming up from behind you. So this is the motion detector unit. You stick this out on a tree in a trail somewhere of where you're, expecting deer to come by, and you want to know that they're moving through that area your way before they're on top of you. So you set that up there. Now, the receiver unit you keep on you, and you can have it, an earpiece where it beeps, but I don't like to have anything in my ears. I like to be able to hear everything going on around me. Or you can just set it for vibrate. And what's also particularly neat about this unit is it can monitor 4 of the motion detectors. Now, if you take a look close at it, you'll see that there's little LED lights, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so you can set each detector you have for whatever motion area, and also set it up so you know in which direction there was movement. So here, I'll just wave my hand in front of it. You can kind of pick up the vibration noise there. And you see that I have this detector set for detector 2. So it lights up the LED for detector 2. This worked out well for me. I'm going to look, when I can scrape up some more funds, get a second or even a third detector, because this really helped me get my cameras on, get them recording before the deer was close and moving in on me. So because my motion detector went off, I had my cameras running and was able, to be ready and catch this buck coming right out off to my right. So in always trying to capture the shot on the footage, I tend to move the camera ahead of time, not necessarily keeping on him, but have it set up to where I think he's going to cross and come in for that shot. As he got closer and closer, I could tell that, he was that button buck, probably the one that was on the camera. And I was like, you know what? You got to let the button bucks go by, let them get bigger, so we get the opportunity to shoot at some big deer. And I have to say, this guy's got some big ears on him for such a little deer. But he moved off. Since I was going to pass on the shot, then I was going to just do a little more to try and catch him with some footage. He walks up over here. You're going to see him make his way up just around these trees. There's a tree that's part of a rub line that the bigger deer have been moving on. And he's going to walk up to it. And even at this young age, he still has an instinct to rub on these trees. I don't know if maybe just the velvet's coming off his little nubs that he's got there, but he does a good job of starting to work on this tree. So after this, he browsed around the area in front of me a little bit and kind of went under. There's a big Palaka holly that had fallen. He went under there and then moved off to my left-hand side and wandered off. Here, I'm just going to give you a little footage. This is when it was just walking in. You can see right there, that's 10, 12 yards out from me. Came in nice and close. But like I said, you got to let those button bucks go by so you can get some big bucks to shoot at. All right, my last encounter that I had, getting it around about 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, it was once again, I had a deer coming up from behind me. Every now and then I heard maybe a twig, I heard something, but you never know if it's just a bird in the bushes or a deer moving around. Eventually I heard louder crunching, which by that time the deer is right on top of you, within 20 yards, and it was coming in from behind me, kind of on my right side. Set up nicely with all that foliage right behind me, I was able to peer through and see it's a nice sized doe coming right around the back side of me. So I turned my camera on and had it set up pointing down right side at that 10-yard marker, seeing if it looked like the doe was going to keep moving that way and come along that side. Now I only had gotten my camcorder turned on because it was really close to me and next to me, and I didn't really have much time as she was moving in. But she kind of made, a turn and was starting to go directly behind me and come out to be around on the left side of me. Instead of just, just turning the whole camera around, I thought, well, I have my action camera, which has that really wide angle lens, and it'll be nice to pick up me and the shot, and then I can get both cameras on the shot. Once again, wanting to bring you guys some good footage. So she was directly behind me in the tree, and I thought I could, reach my arm up, hit the button, because the action camera, it's just a one button click and it starts to record. And just as I'm hitting that button, yeah, that little bit of movement, she blew out of there, went off, trotted out. She went a good 40, 50 yards back. After a little bit, I peeked around the tree and I could see her just moving off further away. So she got spooked out of there. So that being said, you guys all owe me one now because that was for you. Trying to get that footage for you guys. All right. So that was the excitement I had for my hunting. It got to be about 10 o'clock. It was starting to get warm out. The sun had creeped through the trees, starting to cook me sitting up there. So I decided to pack it up for the day. I hadn't seen much late afternoon movement, being that it's just so hot. So I went ahead, got out of my stand, and I took some video, one of just the area where I'm hunting, kind of showing you what's bringing those deer in, so, a little more information on, what to look for out there to find your own spot. And also, being that I, the night before kind of spooked those deer a little bit and just blew the doe out of there, I don't want to really be hitting this spot all that much more to where I just get them to get off pattern from it and never use it anymore. So about another 600-700 yards further deeper into the woods, I do have another spot. I hadn't been out there in 2 years because of the hurricane in the previous year. So I thought I'd, just take my camera, go out there, see what things were looking like, and maybe I'd get my other climber and set it up out there. So I'll walk you all through that. Alright, so this is out in front of my stand. I want to show you the plaque of hollies, and you'll see they'll nibble down the edges to bare stems. That's what they seem to be feeding on as they go through here. There's another one. Branches are a little bit higher up, so they can't really get the berries off the edge. But I guess they look for them underneath here. And here's that large one that button buck came out from under. You see the top, there's a lot of berries up there. But as you work your way down to these edges, there's less and less berries. Deer are eating them off, nibbling up on all the foliage as it grows out. It's a good food source for these transition zones. One of the things that I think keeps them in here. Alright, so got an active scrape working here with a licking branch, and keep making my way back. Alright, this is a little cut through trail going back to my other stand. They were working that. Just a little cypress sapling, working it hard. Well, this is the walk out to that other spot I was talking about. I apologize, didn't realize I had the camera kind of on a down angle. I'm going to speed it up through a lot of this. It's just going to be really fast and shaky, but just to give you an idea of, you know, the areas that I'm trudging through to get to these little open spots that I find. And along the way I came across, I think it was 3 or 4 new freshly worked scrapes. The deer tend to like to use the trails that we cut through there as their own trails. The Florida underbrush is so thick that when you cut a trail through an area, the deer just start using it themselves, and certainly the case here. Well-used scrape right there. That's new. And another one. Getting used heavily. We're gonna have to get back here. Yeah. A lot of activity back here.
So I haven't been back here since the hurricane, and looks like a number of trees been knocked over.
Well, looked like that was being worked as a scrape, but the tree fell over in front of it. Looks fairly recently. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the footage of the deer moving around me. Hope you learned something that's going to help you find a nice hunting hole like this as well. You know, even if we don't see the deer, really Sunday it was just nice to watch the sunrise come up, just the peace and quiet of the woods around us. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck out there. Bye.